A long-lost Stone Age megastructure has just been discovered in Germany.
And a huge wall of skulls built by the Aztecs was found in Mexico City.
More on that right now.
A 115-foot tall, 40-foot wide wooden rack adorned with hundreds of enemy and sacrificial skulls. That is what would have greeted you if you had been unlucky enough as to stumble into the Aztec Cathedral in Mexico City sometime between 1485 and 1502. It is no secret that the Aztecs are an incredibly mysterious civilization known for their advanced architectural feats and aggression. But it wasn't until the discovery of the skull rack back in 2015 that historians realized just how proud the civilization was of their violent ways. The skull rack was found in the corner of a chapel in the Aztec capital. While many of the skulls were likely obtained through human sacrifice, others had a different origin. Historians believe that certain skulls, the ones bleached white for preservation, belonged to enemy warriors who were captured during battles and then killed. The combination of sacrificial and enemy skulls has led historians to believe that the rack is symbolic of the two most important aspects of Aztec life: spirituality and war.
News about a huge ancient wall discovered recently just came out in February. Off the coast of Germany, a long-lost Stone Age megastructure was spotted, and it may be the oldest in Europe discovered to date. In 2021, scientists on a research vessel found something surprising off Germany's Baltic coast, a submerged stretch of stones. And after checking it out, they think this could be Europe's oldest known man-made megastructure, which they've named Blinker Wall. The wall is believed to have been built by Stone Age hunters using it to catch animals. Blinker Wall is made up of over 1,300 stones and about 300 larger boulders, more than half a mile along the seafloor, and is nearly 70 feet underwater in the Bay of Mecklenburg, standing around 1.5 feet. It's believed to have been built around 10,000 years ago. The wall was likely built to guide and trap reindeer, which tend to follow straight paths in the landscape. When it was built, Blinker Wall would have been on dry land, running alongside a lake where reindeer gathered. The idea was to create an artificial bottlenecking, possibly with a second wall, or using the lakeshore to direct the animals towards the hunters. The crazy part is the wall was discovered purely by accident. Students were on a training exercise using sonar to map the seafloor about 6 miles off the German coast when they noticed a straight line of objects which turned out to be rocks. Other archaeologists arrived and determined that the wall was indeed man-made. It's the first Stone Age hunting structure that's ever been found in the Baltic Sea region.
Stonehenge is nothing compared to Superhenge. I mean, it's in the name. Just 3.2 kilometers or 2 miles away from the elusive Stonehenge lies Superhenge. Now, because of their close proximity and the similarity of the structures, including the fact that they are both comprised of the same stones, it is believed that they might be connected. But as we know nothing about how either of them came to be, there is really no way of knowing for sure. The two are estimated to have been built around the same time, somewhere between 3100 and 1600 BC. But unlike Stonehenge, which was discovered back in the 1620s, Superhenge, which is 15 times the size of Stonehenge, wasn't discovered until 2015, because the monument had somehow become buried underground along the Durrington Walls in Great Britain. Seeing as there are no records of either Stone nor Superhenge, and the fact that despite being discovered 400 years ago, we still have no idea what Stonehenge was used for, we have absolutely no clue what the purpose of Superhenge might be. But theories do include a burial monument, a meeting place for kings, some kind of astronomical computer, or even a way to communicate with other worldly beings. But I want to know, what do you think it is? Down below.
Look out, Stonehenge, now we got a Superhenge. Just 3 kilometers from Stonehenge lies an even larger ancient monument known as Superhenge. Hidden beneath the ground at Durrington Walls, this massive stone structure, uncovered in 2015, is believed to have once towered 4.5 meters during the Neolithic period. Though the stones mysteriously toppled and were buried around 4,500 years ago, their discovery paints a vivid picture of monumental site that rivaled Stonehenge in scale and maybe significance. See inside the hedge, researchers also found timber-ringed circles, adding to this massive mystery of its purpose. A single stone called the Cuckoo Stone, made from the same material as Stonehenge, has been removed and studied. Now, given its size and proximity to its famous neighbor, many believe Superhenge is actually closely connected to Stonehenge, though its true purpose remains a puzzle lost in time. Number 4. The city at Old Sarum. Perched near Salisbury, England, Old Sarum is a fascinating site hiding the ruins of a medieval city beneath its surface. Yeah, imagine finding that. Oh, I found a city. Built in the late 11th century, the city once thrived with a castle, a cathedral, and bustling homes, peasants, all that medieval stuff. It was like Game of Thrones, only to be mysteriously abandoned 300 years later. Now, since traditional excavation is off limits due to its protected status, researchers have used advanced laser technology to map the underground structures. God, I love technology. Zoom. Found a castle. They've uncovered defensive walls, remnants of homes, and traces of furnaces and ovens. Now, while its ruins tell a story of life long ago, the reason for the city's disappearance, that is still an unsolved mystery. Number 3, Casa Grande. No, Ariana Grande does not live here. Archaeologists have uncovered some fascinating details about Casa Grande in Arizona. It was built around the early 13th century. This impressive structure included a ball court and a surrounding wall. But one mystery remains. What was the purpose of the 4-story central building? Was it a guard tower? Was it a grain silo? A religious center? It could have been anything. Was it something entirely different that we've ever mentioned? Abandoned long before Columbus's voyage and too deteriorated for Spanish explorers to investigate, the answers remain a mystery. Today, Casa Grande's main building is protected by a roof that was added in the 1930s, and the entire site stands as a federally protected national park. It's the first of its kind to preserve prehistoric ruins in the United States. Why we haven't been doing that for all of them, that's beyond me. Number 2, Bighorn Medicine Wheel. Scattered across North America, there are several medicine wheel monuments. They're these stone structures arranged in a wheel shape, sacred to many tribes of the northern Great Plains. But Wyoming's Bighorn Medicine Wheel, this one stands out. It measures at an impressive 75 feet in diameter, making it the largest of its kind. But wait, there's more. What's even more surprising is that it predates the arrival of the nearby Crow people. So in the 1970s, astronomer John Eddy made an intriguing discovery. Some spokes of the wheel align within the sunrise on different solstices, while others mark the rise of certain stars. It's like a map of the universe. That's crazy. This suggests that the site may have been once served as an ancient observatory. Yet the true origin of the wheel and those who built it remain a mystery to this day. Some like Transformers level stuff right there. It aligns with the stars? What is this, like E.T.? Number 1, Karnak stones. The impressively large collection of megalithic stones that cover the area of Karnak in France have boggled the minds of researchers for years. Why are they here? Who put them here? Who did this? They're also sometimes referred to as France's Stonehenge, ironically enough. Not a bad title. I guess there's Stonehenges everywhere, although these ones are quite different. The Karnak stones are a collection of 3,000 stones, which were all cut from the same rock and put in place somewhere around 500 BCE. Now, what confused a lot of researchers was the fact that even though these stones show alignments, dolmens, and other examples of ancient geography consistent with other sites, they really shouldn't have existed in this time period in which they were constructed. Scientists have been trying to decode the arrangement of the stones for years, but there's nothing. They're trying to figure out what it all means, but you know, they're looking at 3,000 stones, so they're like, I got nothing. It's a bunch of stones. I don't know what you want from me. Number 10, Wat Puman. Wat Puman is a stunning Buddhist temple in Nan, Thailand, famous for its breathtaking design and fascinating artwork. Each of the temple's 4 entrances feature a Buddha statue, and the interior walls are decorated with vibrant murals that depict everyday life back then. But there's more to this temple. A small dome-shaped building nearby offers a glimpse into the underworld. Yeah, it's actually rather terrifying. Inside, life-size scenes vividly portray what happens to those who stray from the Buddhist path. These dioramas show eerie punishments like people in boiling pots, people doused with hot oil, or people confined to trees while birds peck at them. Yeah, hard image to get out of your head. This unsettling display contrasts sharply with the peaceful murals inside the main temple where life is, you know, joyful and fun. Number 9, the Petra Monument. Petra has amazed archaeologists for centuries, but a recent discovery has unearthed something incredible. It's a massive hidden monument spotted by satellites. This raised platform, about the size of an Olympic swimming pool, it's a one-of-a-kind. There's not many structures that are similar. Now today, Petra is a popular tourist destination, but once it was a thriving caravan city at a major trade crossroad. While many ancient structures in Petra's urban center have been uncovered since it was first mapped back in 1812, this monument monument remained hidden until quite recently. Experts believe it was once a grand raised platform with a small building on top and a massive landscape around it. Pottery found nearby suggests that it was built during Petra's early days, possibly as part of an important public project. Who knows what other secrets Petra might still be hiding. Number 8. The Lost Labyrinth of Egypt. Greek historians like Herodotus described an awe-inspiring labyrinth near the pyramid complex of Hawara, a sprawling underground maze with countless chambers, grand halls, and inscriptions. Sounds like something from the Mummy movies. I don't want to go down there at all. This labyrinth was said to contain vast treasures and invaluable records of Egypt's history and religion. Now, despite its legendary status, no trace of this massive structure has ever been found. Is it even real? Some believe it may have been destroyed, while others argue it lies buried beneath layers of sediment waiting to be unearthed eventually. Now, if it does exist, the labyrinth could hold the key to understanding spiritual beliefs, architectural advancements, and cultural practices of ancient Egypt. Especially when we can't figure out how the pyramids were made, maybe this could help us. Could this wonder still be hidden beneath the sands, holding secrets that could rewrite history? I mean, literally rewrite the pages of history? Only time will tell. Number 7. Neanderthal cave circles. Humans are pretty old. Deep within Bruniquel Cave in southern France, hundreds of carved stalagmites rise from the cave floor, forming these mysterious circles. Now, discovered in 1990 but closed off until 2013, researchers finally examined these formations and found evidence of their use by early humans for heat, light, and cooking. Yeah, you wouldn't think any of that when you just looked at a photo. Originally thought to be around 40,000 years old, carbon dating revealed something even more incredible. These structures date back 165,000 years. I told you, we're pretty old. At that time, the only inhabitants in the area were Neanderthals. They were quite far from being these brutish, unintelligent beings they were once thought to be. They weren't like those stupid cavemen at all. These 400 carefully crafted structures showcase their resourcefulness and skill. Yeah, pretty smart for being so old. Number 6. Ancient Greek naval base. Thousands of years ago, Athens built hundreds of sleek warships to defend themselves against the Persian Empire. Now, of course, you have to put these massive ships somewhere, so they would store them in a massive naval base. This colossal structure, built between 520 and 480 BC, is believed to have housed the ships that won the legendary Battle of Salamis. So after a decade of research in murky waters, we now know this naval yard was one of the most impressive feats of ancient engineering and a big key to Greece's survival.
In our number 5 spot today, we have the Great Zimbabwe Ruins, which of course are in Zimbabwe. These are an astonishing glimpse into a medieval African civilization that flourished between the 11th and 15th centuries. Serving as a royal palace for the Zimbabwean monarch, this ancient city is renowned for its massive stone walls built entirely without mortar, a construction technique that's pretty mind-blowing even by today's standards. The most iconic of these is the Great Enclosure, featuring walls that soar over 11 meters or 36 feet high and stretch approximately 250 meters in length. Crafted from meticulously cut granite blocks that fit together so perfectly, these structures showcase advanced masonry skills that leave historians and architects scratching their heads. How did they achieve such precision without modern tools? The sheer scale and craftsmanship of the Great Zimbabwe Ruins not only highlight the ingenuity of its builders, but also challenge common misconceptions about the technological capabilities of ancient African societies. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Sacsayhuaman Fortress in Peru. This is an ancient wonder that continues to baffle historians. Perched on the outskirts of Cuzco and constructed by the Inca in the 15th century, this colossal citadel showcases some of the most impressive masonry ever achieved. This fortress is built from massive stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, and here is the kicker. They're fitted together with such incredible precision that you can't even slip a knife blade between them. These precisely cut stones weren't just for aesthetics, their interlocking design was engineered to absorb seismic shocks from earthquakes, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of structural engineering that was way ahead of its time. The methods the Inca used to move and fit these gigantic stones remains a mystery, especially since they didn't have the wheel or iron tools. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Plain of Jars in Laos. This is an ancient mystery. Strewn across the Shangkwang Plateau are thousands of enormous stone jars, some standing over 3 meters tall and weighing up to 14 tons. Carved from solid rock using iron tools more than 2,000 years ago, these jars were somehow transported over considerable distances, a feat that seems nearly impossible without modern machinery. What's even more mysterious is their unknown purpose. Were they part of ancient burial practices, storage containers for food or water, or perhaps used in fermentation rituals for rice wine? The lack of historical records leaves us with only theories. The sheer scale and precision involved in creating and placing these massive jars challenge our understanding of what ancient civilizations were really capable of. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Ziggurat of Ur. This is an awe-inspiring relic from the ancient world that defies our expectation of early human achievement. Built around the 21st century BCE by the Sumerians, this massive step pyramid was dedicated to the moon god Nana and stands as one of the earliest examples of monumental architecture. What's truly remarkable is that it was constructed using mud bricks for the core structure and then covered with baked bricks bonded with a natural tar, which was quite an advanced building technique for this time. Thousands of laborers would have been involved in this colossal project, meticulously stacking and aligning each brick to create a structure that could withstand the test of time. This wasn't just a religious center, it was a symbol of technological innovation and societal organization. Considering the limited tools and resources available over 4,000 years ago, the sophistication of this challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Nabta Playa Stone Circle, which is in Egypt. An ancient marvel that flips the script on what we think nomadic people were capable of thousands of years ago. Dating back to 7000 BCE, this prehistoric site in the Nubian desert is home to one of the world's oldest known astronomical alignments, beating Stonehenge by several millennia. It's astonishing to consider that these early societies had such advanced knowledge of astronomy that they could align stones with celestial events like the summer solstice and the arrival of monsoon rains. The stones were carefully arranged to track the movement of stars and planets, indicating a deep understanding of the cosmos. What's even more incredible is that this was accomplished by nomadic herders, not settled agriculturalists, showcasing their sophisticated observational skills and organizational abilities. The construction involved strategically placing stones in specific patterns, reflecting both astronomical expertise and remarkable planning. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Kailasa Temple in India. This is one of the most jaw-dropping ancient wonders that seems almost impossible when you first hear about it. Carved directly into a massive rock face in the 8th century CE, this temple is part of the Ellora Caves complex, but stands out because it's entirely monolithic. It was crafted from a single piece of stone. What's even more astonishing is the method of its construction. Artisans started at the very top of the rock and excavated downward, a technique that required impeccable planning and precision since any mistake could ruin the entire structure. The temple is adorned with incredibly intricate carvings depicting deities, mythical creatures, and elaborate scenes that showcase the artistry of the time. Dedicated to Lord Shiva and designed to represent his Himalayan abode, Mount Kailash, the Kailasa Temple, isn't just a feat of engineering, it's a masterpiece that continues to baffle and inspire architects and historians. Can you imagine creating something so magnificent without the aid of modern technology? In our number 9 spot today, we have the Baalbek Trilithon in Lebanon. This is an ancient wonder that leaves even modern engineers scratching their heads. Located within the ruins of the Temple of Jupiter, these enormous stone blocks date back to the Roman Empire and are some of the largest ever used in construction. Each stone weighs around 800 tons. That's the equivalent to stacking about 130 African elephants. The question is, how did people over over 2,000 years ago managed to move and precisely place such massive stones without the aid of modern machinery. While we don't have definitive answers yet, theories suggest that they might have used a combination of rollers, sledges, and sheer human effort, possibly involving thousands of workers. The precision and scale not only showcase the incredible engineering skills of the time, but also highlight how much we still have to learn about ancient construction techniques. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta. This is an underground marvel that seems almost too advanced for its time. Dating back to around 4000 BCE, this labyrinthine complex was carved entirely out of limestone using simple tools like antler picks and stones. It spans 3 levels filled with halls, chambers, and winding passages that could easily get you lost. What's truly mind-blowing is the builder's sophisticated understanding of engineering and acoustics. Some rooms are designed to produce unique sound effects. Imagine chanting in a chamber that naturally amplifies your voice in haunting ways. The precise workmanship and planning required for such a feat are astounding, especially considering the limited technology available over 6,000 years ago. The Hypogeum not only served as a necropolis, but also stands as a testament to the incredible ingenuity of ancient civilizations. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Banaway rice terraces in the Philippines. These are an astounding example of ancient creativity that defies what we might think possible without modern technology. Over 2,000 years ago, the indigenous Ifugao people carved these terraces into the steep mountainsides of Ifugao province, creating a vast network of rice paddies that seem to ascend endlessly into the sky. While these terraces themselves cover a significant area, the entire system of rice terraces in the region extends over 10,000 square kilometers. What's truly mind-blowing is how they achieved this feat with just stone and mud walls, carefully crafted to adapt to the rugged terrain. They engineered an elaborate irrigation system that channels water from the rainforests above, allowing them to cultivate rice sustainably on steep slopes. Even more impressive is that these terraces have been meticulously maintained by countless generations, all without the aid of modern tools. In our number 6 spot today, we have the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela in Ethiopia. These are mind-blowing feats of ancient engineering that seem almost impossible even by today's standards. Carved directly into solid volcanic rock during the 12th and 13th centuries, these 11 monolithic churches weren't built in the traditional sense. They were sculpted from the top down out of a single, massive rock. Each church sits below ground level, nestled within deep trenches, and they're all interconnected by a maze of tunnels and narrow passages. The workers had to plan everything with incredible precision because one mistake would ruin an entire structure. What's even more fascinating is the level of detail inside these churches. Ornate windows, intricate carvings, and perfectly shaped doors, all hewn from the surrounding rock. Commissioned by the king with the aim of creating a New Jerusalem in Ethiopia, these churches stand as a testament to human devotion and sheer determination. The fact that they accomplished this without modern tools or machinery is nothing short of astonishing. It's one of those historical marvels that makes you rethink what ancient civilizations were truly capable of achieving.
Aksum in Ethiopia was the center of a powerful ancient empire. The most famous thing here are the giant obelisks, massive stone columns, some over 70 feet tall and weighing hundreds of tons. So how were these giant stones moved around? There were no cranes, no heavy machinery, all they had were basic tools. So how'd they manage it? Precision in the carvings and the way the stones fit together with no mortar is incredible. It's almost like they had some kind of secret technology for shaping and transporting these blocks, but we have no idea what that could have been. The obelisks are even aligned perfectly with cardinal points, like they had a deep understanding of geometry and the stars. Some people think this might point to lost tech or knowledge they had that we've just lost track of over time. How did they do this with what should have been limited resources? it's still a mystery. Baalbek in Lebanon, this place is straight up wild. The Temple of Jupiter here has some of the biggest stone blocks that you will ever see. Some of them weigh over 800 tons. That's way heavier than anything we see at the Great Pyramid of Giza. And here's the thing, archaeologists say they moved these massive blocks with simple tools and manpower. The blocks are cut so precisely and fit together so tightly it's hard to believe they were just stacked with ropes and pulleys. Plus, there are these detailed carvings and perfectly laid foundations that have survived earthquakes and centuries of time. How did they do this? Some think they could have had tools or techniques that we, again, just have lost today. Maybe even stuff like advanced machinery or some lost form of energy. Geoglyphs are these massive, ancient, and mysterious earthworks that we see when we look down from above with a bird's eye view. You can find geoglyphs all over the world, but one of the craziest discoveries came in 2007 when a guy named Dmitry Day in Kazakhstan started using Google Earth to see if there were any in his country. And after perusing maps for a while, he spotted something. There were over 260 giant shapes scattered across the landscape. The biggest one, an intricate square, is even bigger than the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza. At first, people thought that this was all a hoax, but after NASA got satellite images and confirmed these findings, it was clear there was something there. From the ground, it doesn't make much sense, but once you're above, shapes start to reveal themselves. Crosses, squares, lines, rings, and mounds. The whole thing changes how we view ancient nomads. These structures show that whoever built them had some serious organization and manpower, which is a huge surprise since nomads were typically seen as, well, not exactly big on staying in one place long enough to do heavy construction like this. As for how old they are and exactly what they were made for, nobody's sure. But they might have been created by the Mahadzar culture from 7,000 to 5,000 BCE. The Ica stones are a collection of carved volcanic rocks found in Peru. They come in all sizes, from small ones that will fit just in the palm of your hand to massive boulders over a foot wide. Now, these ones aren't famous for being hundreds of tons or anything like that. The evidence of possible advanced technology here comes from what's carved into the stones. And sure, you have your typical scenes of animals and humans wearing ceremonial headdresses, but some stones show much stranger stuff, images that appear to show advanced medical procedures, like heart and brain surgeries, C-sections, organ transplants. There are also carvings of people looking up at the stars through what look to be telescopes, and there are dinosaurs. Lots and lots of dinosaurs, except these stones would have been created long after they were extinct. It's all just very strange. So how did these people possibly have such advanced knowledge, way beyond what was thought possible for ancient civilizations? We don't know. And we don't know anything about the people who created these things either. There's no other evidence of their society. There are no ruins or other artifacts, we just have these stones. Derinkuyu is an ancient underground city in Turkey that's over 2,000 years old. It's massive, with multiple levels and hundreds of rooms, and it's pretty sophisticated for something built such a long time ago. The whole place seems like it was designed with real engineering know-how, things like an advanced ventilation system that keeps fresh air flowing, even deep underground. Then there are things like giant stone doors that could be rolled into place, shutting off entire sections of the city for protection. It's clear a lot of thought went into its design. The underground city is about 280 feet deep and could house up to 20,000 people, along with their animals and food supplies. It's everything you'd need to live down there: wine and oil presses, stables, storage rooms, chapels. One of the rooms is thought to have been a religious school, with nearby spaces used for studying. Over the centuries, the city was used to shelter people during invasions, but eventually it was forgotten about, and it just stayed hidden until 1963, when a homeowner renovating his place found it all by accident. He'd been chasing a chicken that ran into a hole in his basement when he found this whole network of underground tunnels. By 1969, parts of Derinkuyu were open to the public, and now you can explore about half of this underground city. Alright, now we couldn't do a list about ancient structures and possible advanced technology without mentioning the pyramids of Giza. The Great Pyramid, in particular, is just insane. Made up of 2.3 million blocks, some that weigh 80 tons. There have been a lot of theories, debates, and conspiracies over the years about how the ancient Egyptians managed to cut, move, and stack these massive stones so precisely without anything like cranes or other modern tools. It's even crazier based on the fact that these pyramids are still standing just as they did all those years ago. The mainstream explanation is usually that they used copper tools and like ramps and pulleys. We've never had a definitive explanation, and don't even get me started on the pyramid's alignment. It's aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal points of the Earth, and even has some pretty crazy astronomical alignments. It's obvious they had a pretty advanced understanding of the stars and the Earth's movements way ahead of their time. In Bosnia, there's a site called Visoko, where some believe there are ancient pyramids hidden underneath layers and layers of dirt. Now, the Bosnian government, along with a lot of archaeologists, claim these are just natural formations, but a group of researchers, including a man named Dr. Samir Osmaganak, insist that they're man-made pyramids, possibly built over 12,000 years ago. If there really are pyramids here, they're also interestingly positioned. They align perfectly with the cardinal points, and the materials used seem unusual. The stones are said to be fitted very precisely, and that there's some sort of bizarre energy field around them. Some even claim these pyramids could be harnessing energy like a power plant. The biggest pyramid, known as the Pyramid of the Sun, has led some to wonder that the people who built it had access to advanced construction methods, possibly even technology that we don't know about today. Gunung Padang is a hill in Indonesia, but under that hill is a massive man-made structure that might be older than the Great Pyramids. There's been debate around the site for years. Some researchers think it's the remnants of an ancient pyramid complex. They've done carbon dating here, which has shown that it could be 20,000 years old, possibly even older. The core of the site is made up of huge, precisely cut stone blocks, and there's evidence that the structure was built in layers over time. The entire site seems to be built on top of a massive underground chamber, and if you ask some researchers, they'll tell you that it lines up with the positions of stars and planets. Basically, it looks like the ancient people who built it knew a lot about how the night sky worked and could track things like the stars and planets, maybe even using that knowledge for things like farming or rituals. For as mysterious as the site is, it doesn't get nearly as much attention as places like Stonehenge, for example, but it might have been home to a civilization way more advanced than we ever have imagined. In Baluchistan, a province in Pakistan, there's a rock formation that looks like this. Now, what's the first thing that comes to mind looking at this thing? Well, it looks eerily similar to the Sphinx in Egypt, doesn't it? The formation is carved, or rather formed, out of the side of a hill, and I say it could be formed because it's not entirely clear whether this thing was naturally formed or not. But it doesn't match the time frame we'd expect of any ancient civilization in the area. Some think it could be the remnants of a lost civilization, possibly dating back over 10,000 years, well before the Egyptians ever carved their version. The idea that there was an advanced civilization in this part of the world, not as famous as Egypt or Mesopotamia, is pretty mind-blowing, but also kind of frustrating because we don't have any solid proof. Some think this rock formation came from some unknown ancient civilization who had the tech to carve massive statues with crazy precision, and maybe even had the know-how to line them up with stars or solstices, kind of like the Egyptians did. Others think this is just a naturally formed rock that just happens to look like the Sphinx, but what do you all think? Karnak in Luxor, Egypt is one of the most impressive temple complexes ever built. It was dedicated to the Theban triad Amun, Mut, and Khonsu, and construction began around 4,000 years ago. The scale of this place is just insane. It spans over 200 acres, and inside it are massive stone pillars, each weighing several tons, and as you can tell, looking at these images, its design and construction were incredibly advanced. The walls are decorated with astronomical alignments and star maps too. The Egyptians probably had an even deeper understanding of the cosmos than we give them credit for. The precision of the architecture here is just amazing. The stones were cut with such exactness that they fit together without mortar, something that still baffles experts today. And the pillars, they're not just massive, they're carved with such detail that it's hard to believe ancient people had the tools to do something like this. Now, this cropped image from the Mars Opportunity rover of a rock looks very similar to a Neo-Assyrian attendant god statue that's currently being housed at the British Museum. The resemblance is pretty uncanny, and it only added to all the conspiracies about aliens visiting Earth in ancient times, possibly bringing back souvenirs. Some even wonder if these sculptures were inspired by alien visitors. But much like the mysterious doorway, could our brains just be seeing patterns that aren't really there? In 2022, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter found something that got people's attention: a hole on the Martian surface near a volcano. Now, at first, a hole might not sound like a big deal, but this one could be critical for future human missions. This hole is just a few meters across, but scientists aren't sure how deep it goes. The real excitement comes from the possibility that the hole might be connected to a larger underground cavern, or caverns, which could be useful for astronauts hopefully living on Mars in the future, fingers crossed. Planet's thin atmosphere doesn't provide the kind of radiation shielding that Earth's does, so having an underground base would make for a perfect refuge from the harmful space radiation. Even more fascinating is the idea that these pits could have housed living beings already. On Earth, there are karsts, natural cave networks that form when limestone erodes. If Martian pits are similar, they could have offered a warm, protected environment that might have supported life long ago. It's easy to see why some people think that NASA is keeping more secrets than they're letting on when it comes to Mars. In January of 2014, the Opportunity rover came across something very strange: a rock that had mysteriously appeared in an area where it hadn't been before. This rock, about 4 centimeters wide, also had an odd shape and color that made it look almost like a jelly donut. The rock's outer layer was white, while the center was dark red. The fact that the rock seemed to come out of nowhere, too, became quite the story. Some people even took legal action against NASA at the time, apparently, demanding answers about this mysterious object. Well, NASA did come out, and they said that the rover had probably kicked up a rock during its movements, and the white outer layer was likely exposed when the rock flipped over, revealing a surface that hadn't been exposed to the Martian atmosphere for billions of years. But even with this explanation, the rock raises some interesting questions about how little we really know about the Martian environment. Who knows what other strange rocks there are to be found out there? In August of 2014, an image from NASA's Curiosity rover showed what appeared to be a human thigh bone on the Martian surface. This rock formation, about a foot long, looked almost exactly like a femur, complete with what seemed like a ball joint at one end. For a brief moment, conspiracy theorists had a field day with this, posting about how NASA had come across alien remains, but scientists, like they do, came along with a much less interesting explanation. They just explained that the rock wasn't a bone, but just a formation shaped by the powerful winds of Mars. Yes, this seemed to be a simple case of pareidolia, where the human brain just tends to recognize familiar shapes in random objects. Mars's wind erosion can sculpt rocks into shapes that look like things we may recognize from Earth. So, as cool as the idea of alien bones was, it turned out to be just another trick of nature, most likely anyway. So, what does all this weird stuff culminate in? Well, the theory about a massive alien base hidden beneath the surface of the red planet. Of course, the theory goes that NASA and other space agencies have known about it for years, but they've been covering it up to prevent a panic. Some say the base is buried deep under Mars's dusty surface, built by an ancient alien civilization that used to call the planet home. The reason they think it's hidden: certain anomalies spotted in photos sent back from rover missions, structures that don't look normal, like the monoliths we talked about earlier. Some even point to areas where there are strange geometric patterns or long straight lines that seem to form unnatural shapes, like tunnels or underground entrances, possibly. There's also talk of bizarre lights seen on Mars's surface in NASA's own images, which some claim are signs of energy sources or artificial illumination. The theory is that these bases are still operational, and that alien life is quietly waiting beneath the surface. Of course, mainstream science doesn't acknowledge any of this. So did NASA accidentally discover life on Mars almost 50 years ago, only to destroy it before realizing what they'd found? Well, that's the theory posed by Dirk Schultz-Makuch, an astrobiologist at the Technical University of Berlin. In a June 27th article for Big Think, Dirk talked about how the Viking landers may have accidentally came across tiny life forms while collecting samples of Martian rocks in 1976, but their experiments may have killed these life forms before they could be identified. The Viking 1 and Viking 2 landers carried out several experiments designed to detect signs of life. Now, while most of these experiments didn't show clear signs of life, a few results were rather interesting. See, a couple of their experiments hinted that some form of metabolism might be happening in the Martian soil. One test, which uses a tool called a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer, or GCMS, picked up traces of chemicals that shouldn't normally be on Mars, at least what they'd assume. Now, at first, scientists thought it was just contamination from cleaning products used on Earth, but later they realized those chemicals could naturally occur on Mars. There was also a big test designed to check if Mars had any living organisms, called the gas exchange experiment, but that one came back negative. That made most scientists think Mars had no life. But Dirk thinks they just messed up. He believes that the amount of water used in the tests could have killed off any microbes that were actually there, so the tests came back wrong. To put things in the bluntest and most simple wording possible, that is. But continuing with Schulz-McCuch's theory, back in 2008, the Phoenix rover, which was exploring the Martian North Pole, made an unexpected discovery while scooping up soil. It found evidence of perchlorate, a type of salt. Now, on Earth, ancient microorganisms use perchlorate as an energy source, so scientists got kind of excited, thinking it could be a sign of similar life on Mars. But here's the thing, it's a highly flammable substance. It's actually used on Earth to make a rocket fuel and fireworks burn faster. So if perchlorate was in the Martian soil, the theory went, Vikings' attempts to heat the soil might have set the perchlorate on fire, burning any organic material that might have been present. But if the substance really did incinerate any potential Martian life, there would likely be evidence of it left behind. When carbon burns with perchlorate, it produces chlorobenzene, a compound that contains carbon, hydrogen, and chlorine. Chlorobenzene can stick around in soil for months, and as it turns out, NASA's Curiosity rover did find traces of chlorobenzene in Martian soil during a 2013 mission. So researchers decided to go back and reanalyze Viking's original data, this time focusing specifically on chlorobenzene. Sure enough, they found trace amounts of the compound in samples taken by Viking 2. This means that the Viking mission might have indeed come across organic material, only to burn it up before they could study it. Melissa Guzman, a researcher from the Latmos Research Center in France, explained that while the evidence is compelling, though, it's not proof of Martian life, at least not definitively. The carbon compounds could have been contaminants from Earth, but some scientists, like Daniel Glavin from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, believe this new research could be the most important evidence pointing to organic molecules possibly existing on Mars. Now, in 1976, the Viking 1 orbiter captured a photo of what looked a lot like a humanoid face on Mars. This eerie formation, found in the Cydonia region, was about 2 kilometers long, and from a specific angle, the rock structure looked a hell of a lot like a human face, an especially creepy human face. You could see what looked like eyes, a nose, and mouth. This strange appearance led some to think it was a relic from some ancient Martian civilization, maybe even a monument built by extraterrestrials. The timing couldn't have been better for conspiracy theorists who jumped on that idea that NASA was hiding proof of intelligent life on Mars. But when the Mars Global Surveyor took higher resolution images in 2001, followed by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's detailed shots in 2007, the face turned out to be nothing more than a natural rock formation. The new pictures showed a rugged, uneven hill with no facial features to be found, but the original image is absolutely iconic, especially among UFO enthusiasts who still argue that NASA is covering something up. Some think NASA intentionally downplays some of these stranger things they come across, in this case that Mars could have been home to some advanced civilization. In May of 2022, the Curiosity rover snapped a picture of what appeared to be this perfectly cut out doorway in some Martian rocks. The rectangular shape, about a foot tall, seemed like a deliberate opening, but no one's ever set foot on Mars, at least no one from Earth. So just what is this thing? Could it have been made by an ancient Martian civilization? The idea that Mars could have once been inhabited by intelligent beings who built doorways definitely caught a lot of people's attention, but scientists quickly offered a more grounded explanation. They pointed out that this so-called doorway was probably just the result of a natural process called differential erosion, where softer rock wears away faster than the harder rock around it. Over millions of years, this process can create openings in the surface. Experts also explain that Mars experiences seismic activity, or Marsquakes, which could have helped form this specific shape. Now, a couple of strange rectangular shapes have popped up on Mars, igniting all kinds of rumors and conspiracy theories. The first was spotted by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and it's a mysterious object that looks like a massive rectangular boulder. The high-resolution, high-rise camera captured this from about 180 miles above the surface, showing details so sharp that it makes you wonder if this is just a rock or something more. Then there's the Phobos monolith found on Mars's moon, Phobos. This huge rock, about 295 feet tall, was discovered by amateur astronomer Efren Palermo, who was analyzing Martian images. The size and shape of the monolith make it pretty hard to ignore. It's even appeared in fiction, like in Alistair Reynolds' 2012 novel Blue Remembered Earth, where it's said to have been carved by astronauts into the shape of a wrecked spaceship. So, are these monoliths giant space markers left by some ancient alien race, or are they just oddly shaped rocks on Mars and its moon? Next up is the unfinished obelisk in Egypt. This granite giant is still attached to the bedrock in its quarry in Aswan. If it had been completed, it would have stood about 137 feet tall and weighed roughly 1,160 to 1,200 tons, which is around 2.3 to 2.6 million pounds. The Egyptians were carving it during Queen Hatshepsut's reign, but once cracks appeared, they abandoned the project. Today, you could still clearly see the tool marks and even the holdups where workers used harder stone balls to chip it out. Why is it still here? Well, it was never finished or detached. Maybe they were just too ambitious and realized there was just no way they were going to lug that thing out of there. Next on the list we have the Thunderstone. So this massive rock was dug out of a swamp near the Gulf of Finland in the 1700s, and it ended up as the base of the famous bronze horseman statue in St. Petersburg. Originally it weighed around 1,500 tons, about 3.3 million pounds. It was trimmed down to about 1,250 tons during the move, but even then, it was still one of the heaviest objects ever moved by humans without modern machinery. It's made of something called Rapakivi granite, which is a specific type of granite found mostly in that region. Looks a bit different from regular granite. It has large round crystals that kind of pop out, and it's known for breaking apart more easily. That crumbly texture made carving and shaping the stone risky, so they had to be extra careful not to crack it during the move. I mean, imagine a chunk from a stone that weighs thousands of tons falling on you. Yeah, moving it was quite a risk. Around 400 workers dragged it more than 3.5 miles over swampy ground using ball bearings under wooden rails to roll it forward. Would have been very slow. After that, they floated it across the Neva River. The move took nearly 2 years. Next up, we have the Colossi of Memnon, two massive stone statues that have been sitting in the Egyptian desert for over 3,000 years. No one's quite sure how the ancient builders managed this. Each one is around 60 feet tall, about a 6-story building, and weighs about 720 tons. Now, 720 tons, like, that sounds light now compared to the other entries on the list, but that's still about 1.4 million pounds. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around numbers that big. They were carved from single blocks of quartzite sandstone, and they weren't carved locally. A type of stone comes from a quarry near Cairo, which is over 400 miles away. So this would have been like dragging a skyscraper-sized boulder across the desert. They were originally part of a massive mortuary temple for Pharaoh Imhotep III, but most of that complex has been lost to time. Interestingly, for centuries, the northern statue was reported to sing at dawn, a kind of whistling or humming sound. Ancient Greeks and Romans actually traveled there just to hear it. Scientists think it had something to do with temperature shifts and cracks in the stone, but it's still eerie how consistent the reports were. What's left of Ramses II's statue is just the broken pieces, but even those are ridiculously huge. The fallen torso alone weighs around 1,000 tons and would have stood around 60 feet tall when it was still upright. It used to stand outside the Ram Museum, a giant temple complex built by Ramses II, who ruled Egypt for 66 years and basically made everything in his name as big as possible. Because why not if you're in that position? The statue is carved from a single piece of granite, which didn't come from Luxor, it came from Aswan, nearly 110 miles away. There's desert, rocky terrain, and the Nile between those two spots. Archaeologists think the statue may have been broken during an earthquake, but there's also evidence that it was intentionally dismantled by rulers who came later, or looters who used the pieces for building material. Still, craftsmanship is insane. The carving is so precise, you could still make out details of the face and headdress, even with chunks missing. There's also debate about how they even stood this thing up in the first place, considering it's heavier than anything we can move whole today. Inside the Western Wall tunnels in Jerusalem is a stone that's somehow both easy to miss and absolutely massive. It's about 45 feet long, 11 feet high, and estimated to be around 6.5 feet thick, which puts its weight somewhere between 550,000 and 660,000 pounds. So it makes it even crazier that it's not just lying around, it's fitted perfectly into the wall, right in the middle of a row of huge stones stacked with barely any gaps between them. It's part of what's called the Great Course, which is a set of foundation stones from the time of King Herod over 2,000 years ago. These were placed without mortar. They were just perfect cuts holding everything together. Some of the joints are so tight you can't even fit a sheet of paper between them. Nobody knows exactly how they did this, but the theory is they used wooden rollers and levers. Even now, the stone is in such a tight underground spot that it wasn't properly measured until the 80s using ground-penetrating radar. The Dolmen of Menga, one of the oldest and most impressive prehistoric engineering projects in Europe. Built around 5,700 years ago, it's made of 32 stones, with the biggest weighing over 150 tons. People actually dug these stones out, dragged them nearly half a mile, and stacked them by hand, probably over hundreds of years. The biggest ones come from a nearby hillside. Instead of rolling them on logs, like you often hear about, they slid them across packed dirt using wooden sleds and stone tracks. So they basically built temporary roads. Archaeologists even found grooves in the ground where the sleds were dragged. Inside, the stones weren't just dumped into place. The ones standing upright lean in slightly, which helps them hold up the heavy ceiling stones without everything caving in. At the base of the Temple of Jupiter in Baalbek, Lebanon, are 3 limestone blocks that are famous for how insanely huge they are. They're called the trilithon blocks. Each one is around 64 feet long, over 14 feet high, and weighs somewhere between 750 to 800 tons. And they aren't just sitting on the ground. Somehow these things had been placed about 20 feet up in a retaining wall. Even today, with all the technology we have, lifting a single one of these stones would be a major challenge. For comparison, the strongest cranes in the world, like the Liebherr LR 13,000, can lift around 3,000 tons, but that's under perfect controlled conditions and usually with smaller sized loads. Getting a 800-ton stone hoisted and placed precisely the way the Romans did it is still not something that could be done casually or quickly today. Most experts think the stones were cut from a nearby quarry slightly uphill and then moved into place using a combination of levers, rollers, and dirt ramps. There's no official blueprint for how it happened though, but the stones are there and they've been sitting solidly in place for nearly 2,000 years. No one has moved them since. Also in Lebanon is the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. It still sits in the quarry near the Temple of Jupiter, and it's even heavier than the trilithon blocks. It measures about 68 feet long, 14 feet wide, and weighs about 1,000 tons. To this day, no one has moved it. It cracked during or after quarrying, so it was never transported, but it's not the only one like this. There are even larger stones still buried nearby, including one estimated to weigh over 1,600 tons. The name Stone of the Pregnant Woman comes from a local legend. The story goes that a pregnant woman promised to move it if people fed her until she gave birth, which obviously didn't happen. That's where the name comes from. It has nothing to do with the stone's real purpose. Researchers believe the block was intended for the same platform as the trilithon stones, but the crack probably made it unusable. What's crazy is that these stones were cut so precisely, skillfully, that even today, it's not fully clear how they planned to move them without modern equipment. Next up is the Stone of the South. This one's even bigger than the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, around 19.5 to 20.5 meters long, or about 4.3 to 4.5 meters high and wide, and roughly 1,242 tons. That's heavier than anything the Romans actually moved. It's still sitting in the quarry untouched. People think it might have cracked or just proved way too big to move. It's just a few hundred meters from where the trilithon and pregnant woman's stones were quarried. Again, it was probably going to the same place, but something stopped the Romans from finishing the job. Some modern cranes can technically lift around 1,200 tons, but again, that's under perfect conditions. For starters, you'd want the ground to be flat. This stone is half buried, it's tilted, nowhere near ready to be lifted. Even if you could attach a cable, just getting a crane into that uneven quarry and setup would probably be a nightmare, probably harder than the lift itself. And just when you think Baalbek couldn't possibly have anything bigger, I promise this whole list isn't just from this one place, but archaeologists dug around in 2014 and found an even larger stone sitting right beneath the already massive stone of the pregnant woman. This third monolith, often called the Forgotten Stone, weighs in at about 1,650 tons. That is over 3.3 million pounds. It's about 64 feet long, 20 feet wide, and 18 feet high. To this day, it's considered the largest known stone ever carved by humans. And again, it looks like the builders started cutting it out and then just stopped. The entire underside is still connected to the bedrock. There are no wedge holes, no signs it was ever even close to being moved. That's raised a ton of questions, pun very much intended. Really, it's just one question: why did they abandon the project? But I had to make the pun. But this thing was hidden under centuries of debris, and since it's still attached to the quarry floor, we don't actually know what their plan was. Off the coast of Cuba, there's something pretty wild lying underwater: pyramids. Using sonar, researchers found what looks like the remains of an ancient city, complete with giant stone structures. The find was made in 2001 by a marine engineer named Pauline Zalitsky and her husband, Paul Weinswig, owners of a Canadian company called Advanced Digital Communications. Some of these formations are massive, around 400 meters wide and 40 meters tall, or about 1,312 feet wide and 131 feet tall or so. And they're not natural either, at least they really don't seem to be. The way they're laid out suggests they were designed by humans, so the questions are, how old are they and who built them? Some experts think the city could be 6,000 years old, others believe it could go back as far as 50,000 years. Even more interesting, there are strange symbols and carvings on some of these stones, and they don't match any known languages. But they do kind of look a bit like Aztec or Mayan symbols. Ships have been reporting strange sightings in the Indian Ocean for over a century, and it all starts in 1873. On March 23rd of that year, the crew of the ship Adelheid crossing the South China Sea spotted a massive, mile-wide disc floating just beneath the surface, glowing with light. Then in 1879, the HMS Vulture crew reported seeing two giant, quote, Ferris wheels spinning in opposite directions with spokes 25 feet wide and 100 feet apart. Over the years, there have been more and more of these reports. In 1901, the crew of the SS Kilwa in the Persian Gulf saw rays of light coming from an underwater disc-like object. Then in 1943, sailor Matthew Mangle described a huge glowing disc pacing his ship, also in the Persian Gulf. These sightings didn't just happen once or twice, but across multiple decades and locations, each with similar descriptions of these bright, rotating, glowing discs beneath the water. They're all still a mystery to this day, with no clear explanation for what these massive underwater objects could be. At one time, the city of Neapolis was an important Roman city in Tunisia, until it was destroyed by a tsunami in 365. The same disaster hit Alexandria down the coast, but Neapolis was completely wiped out and stayed lost for over 1,700 years. Then in 2017, after 7 years of digging, archaeologists rediscovered it. Even though Neapolis was a Roman city, it sided with Carthage during the Punic Wars, which led the Romans to mostly just ignore this place in their records. But when they started uncovering this city, they found it was much bigger and more developed than they would have expected. One of the coolest finds was over 100 tanks used to make garum, a popular fish sauce in ancient Rome. And it turns out Neapolis might have been one of the top producers of it. In 2007, underwater archaeologist Mark Hawley discovered something incredible in Lake Michigan, a structure that looks a lot like Stonehenge, known as the Michigan Stonehenge. This underwater arrangement of stones sits about 40 feet below the surface and forms this circular pattern. And some of the stones even appear to be lined up in a straight row, which is certainly strange. So what are these stones doing there? Could they be the remnants of an ancient civilization? The way these stones are laid out suggests they were carefully arranged this way, not formed naturally. One of the most curious finds is a rock with what looks like it might have a mastodon carved into it. And to make it even more mind-blowing, these stones are thought to be around 9,000 years old, predating Stonehenge by about 4,000 years. This last one's different from pretty much everything else on this list. It's not an ancient city, but it's creepy all the same. A cemetery of sunken Japanese World War II ships. In 1944, Chuuk Lagoon in Micronesia was the site of Operation Hailstone, where US fighter planes bombed Japanese warships, and today this lagoon is home to over 60 shipwrecks, remnants of that brutal battle. It's all just sitting underwater now, corroding ships, tanks, and cars are even scattered across the seabed. As divers swim through the site, they might find barnacle-covered firearm, old gas masks, abandoned medicine bottles, personal items, all just frozen in time. Some of these wrecks even have the bones of soldiers who died in the battle. It's incredibly eerie, no doubt, but divers will also say the place has a certain beauty to it, a kind of haunting stillness. The submerged city of Pavlo-Petri, found off the coast of southern Greece, is believed to be over 5,000 years old, making it the oldest known sunken city in the world. Discovered in 1967 by Nicholas Fleming, it's an ancient settlement almost perfectly preserved, with its streets, buildings, and tombs all sitting underwater. Over time, earthquakes and rising sea levels submerged the place around 1000 BCE, and it never resurfaced. The city was a trading hub. There's evidence that it had connections with Crete and other civilizations of the time. Excavations have revealed 15 well-planned buildings and a complex water system. These people were skilled engineers. With high-tech tools like sonar mapping and underwater robots, archaeologists have been able to create a 3D digital map of the city, giving us a closer look at its layout and how it would have functioned. The mystery of crystal pyramids in the Bermuda Triangle has been talked about since the 60s. The first real claim came from a man named Dr. Ray Brown, who, while scuba diving off the coast of the Bahamas, reported coming across this underwater pyramid.
That he came across the most magnificent find of all. In the murkiness, he spotted the tip of a submerged pyramid, barely visible above the ocean floor.
He described it as being made of a crystal-like material, even saying he was able to retrieve a piece of it, but that his camera equipment was destroyed in a storm, thus he was unable to return with actual photographic evidence of the pyramid. Dubious for sure, but since then more stories about underwater pyramids have spread. And then again, the documentary that his story comes from was narrated by Leonard Nimoy, so I can see why people were so intrigued. I mean, it's Mr. Spock. I'd believe it too. Pyramids were found at a depth of 2,000 meters. The report claimed that they were 3 times bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The pyramids were allegedly made of this crystal-like substance. The thing is, Dr. Meir Verlag has never been verified to exist. So, is this an actual find or just another piece of Bermuda Triangle folklore? Off the coast of Malta, a discovery in 1999 started a bit of a debate. They're known as the underwater temples of Gebel Gol Bahar. Hubert Zeitmer, a retired businessman, discovered the ruins. Zeitmer wasn't a scientist, and he was into the whole ancient astronauts conspiracy stuff, so a lot of people dismissed his findings, but that doesn't mean it's not intriguing. There hasn't been an official study into this, but unofficial research has claimed that the ruins could be thousands of years old. Some even think this area was once inhabited and could have been submerged by a massive flood, possibly the same one described in the Bible. Now, of course, mainstream scholars aren't really buying this theory, with some arguing that the rocks and boulders are just the result of illegal dumping, but it's not just the structures themselves that have people talking. There are also cart ruts, grooves in the seabed that stretch into the water, similar to ones found on the island of Malta itself, which means this area might have been on dry land at one point in time. What you're looking at here are the submerged ruins of a long-lost city called Xichang, aka China's Atlantis. It's pretty spectacular. It sits beneath the waters of Qingdao Lake, in the Zhejiang province. The city of Xichang, or Lion City, was once a bustling metropolis during the Ming and Qing dynasties, but in 1959 it was intentionally flooded to create the Xing'an Dam and its hydroelectric station, which caused nearly 300,000 people to be relocated. The city was forgotten until 2001, when the Chinese government sent an expedition to explore what remained of this lost city. But it wasn't until 2011 that the discovery really took off. The Chinese National Geography published photos and illustrations showing what the city might have looked like before it sank, and what's wild is how well preserved the place is now. There are hundreds of archways with these intricate carvings of lions and dragons and phoenixes. Some inscriptions even date back to 1777. Because the water protects the ruins from weathering, Xichang looks almost as if it were frozen in time, and divers from all over the world come to explore the area. Bimini Road was found off the coast of Bimini Island in the Bahamas in 1968 by Joseph Mason Valentine. The site consists of these large, flat stones arranged in a straight line across the seabed, leading many to believe that it could be the ancient remains of a city. As Valentine explored the area further, he uncovered more outlines of possible ruins around the road. Some were quick to point out that it seemed like evidence of the lost city of Atlantis, arguing that the stones were just clearly too uniform to be some natural formation. Mainstream scientists, though, think that the road is the result of nature, that erosion over a long period of time has just created this illusion of a flat road. Ray Brown, another researcher, claimed to have discovered a sunken pyramid near Berry Island, not far from Bimini. He was on a mission to find sunken galleons when he noticed the quote-unquote pyramid, and as he later reported, his navigation equipment malfunctioned right before the discovery, so maybe there's something to this one.
Among the most intriguing finds in the Amazon are the monumental mounds scattered across various regions. Unlike the flat geoglyphs, these earthen mounds rise above the surrounding landscape and may have served multiple purposes: defensive structures, platforms for ceremonies, or even markers of astronomical events. Some mounds feature terraced layers, suggesting they were built over many generations. And what is truly fascinating is that these mounds are often found in areas that also contain evidence of intensive agriculture. This has led some archaeologists to propose that mound building was part of a larger strategy to manage and transform the landscape. The sophistication of these constructions indicates that Amazonian societies were not only capable of creating awe-inspiring monuments, but were also experts in engineering and land management. Water is life, especially in the dense and dynamic environment of the Amazon. Alongside the geometric earthworks, scientists have uncovered evidence of intricate water management systems that suggest a deep understanding of hydraulics and agriculture. In several sites, channels and canals have been found in close proximity to the geoglyphs and mounds, indicating that the ancient builders were keen on controlling water flow to support their settlements and crop fields. Some of these canals are remarkably long, hinting at a network designed not just for irrigation, but also for transportation and possibly even ritual purification. The existence of these waterworks adds another layer of complexity to our understanding of Amazonian societies, one where engineering and environmental stewardship went hand in hand. This discovery challenges modern assumptions about primitive methods, showing instead that these ancient peoples had mastered techniques that are still relevant in sustainable agriculture even today. Among the diverse array of Amazonian earthworks, some circular ditches have a peculiar feature: a central platform that seems perfectly positioned to capture the first light of dawn or the glow of a setting sun. Could it be that these sites served as early observatories or ritual spaces aligned with celestial events? Several researchers have noted that the orientation of these circles corresponds with significant astronomical phenomena, such as solstices and equinoxes. This potential alignment suggests that the builders may have had an advanced grasp of astronomy, a tool used not only for practical purposes like agriculture, but also for marking time and celebrating seasonal cycles through ritual. The idea that these ancient communities built structures structures that double as celestial calendars is both enchanting and humbling, revealing a worldview where the heavens and earth were intimately connected through art, science, and spirituality. Step back and take a closer look at the intricate geometric designs etched into the earth. What might they mean? Unlike random drawings, these patterns are remarkably consistent and suggest a symbolic language that the ancient builders used to communicate ideas about order, nature, and the cosmos. Some of the designs incorporate spirals, concentric circles, and interlocking shapes that evoke both natural forms and mathematical precision. Researchers have hypothesized that these patterns could represent everything from maps of sacred sites to depictions of mythological stories, or even encoded astronomical data. Although the true meaning remains elusive, the level of detail and thought behind each design speaks volumes about the intellectual and artistic culture of these ancient Amazonian societies. When you stand before one of these sprawling earthworks, you can't help but wonder if there's a hidden order to the chaos of nature. A growing body of research suggests that many of these structures were deliberately aligned with celestial events. For instance, some geoglyphs and mounds are oriented towards the rising sun during the summer solstice or the winter solstice's sunset, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of the solar cycles. This alignment is not merely coincidental, it appears to be a deliberate choice that could have held ceremonial or calendrical significance. Imagine an ancient society gathering at these sites to mark the changing seasons, celebrating the cycles of nature with rituals that connect them directly to the cosmos. Such astronomical alignments reveal that the builders were not only skilled engineers, but also keen observers of the sky, integrating their knowledge of the universe into the very fabric of their environment. Imagine discovering an entire city, concealed by lush vegetation for thousands of years. In the Upano area of eastern Ecuador, archaeologists have uncovered a sprawling ancient metropolis built around 2,500 years ago and inhabited for nearly 1,000 years. Using advanced lidar technology over a 300 square kilometer survey, they revealed 6,000 rectangular platforms, each about 20 by 10 meters and arranged in clusters around plazas with central platforms. These platforms likely housed homes and ceremonial spaces, all connected by an intricate network of straight roads and canals, including a jaw-dropping 25-kilometer long route. Nestled in the fertile shadow of a volcano, the city not only boasted sophisticated urban planning, but also challenges our old ideas that the Amazon was home to only nomadic tribes or tiny settlements. As one expert put it, this discovery forces us to rethink our Eurocentric notions of civilization and appreciate the complex, interconnected societies that once thrived deep in the jungle. Tucked away in the Brazilian state of Acre, the Acre geoglyphs are among the most well-documented and awe-inspiring earthworks in the Amazon. Discovered through a combination of aerial surveys and on-the-ground exploration, these vast geometric shapes, circular, rectangular, and sometimes even complex polygonal designs, stretch over hundreds of meters. What makes them so captivating? Their sheer scale and precision that suggest that an organized society once mobilized thousands of laborers to craft these monumental outlines on the earth. Researchers like Michael Heckenberger have pointed out that these geoglyphs indicate not only advanced engineering skills, but also a very rich cultural life, possibly serving as ceremonial centers or markers of territorial boundaries. These earthworks force us to rethink the long-held myth of the Amazon as an untouched jungle, revealing instead a dynamic landscape of human creativity and purpose. Travel a little further east near the city of Santarém in the Para state, and you'll find another jaw-dropping set of structures. Satellite imagery and drone surveys have revealed intricate patterns etched into the land, geometric forms that echo the designs found in Acre, but with their own distinct flair. The Santarém earthworks are particularly intriguing because of their interlocking layout. Many appear connected by faint pathways and ditches that seem to lead from one ceremonial site to another. Some experts believe that these represent ancient ancient roads or processional routes used during religious ceremonies. What's even more mysterious is the possibility that these geometric arrangements were not random at all, but might have been aligned with astronomical events, hinting at a complex understanding of the cosmos by their builders. Further south, along the winding tributaries of the Purus River, researchers have uncovered a series of lesser-known circular earthworks that seem almost too perfect to be natural. These circular ditches, some with central platforms, appear deliberately constructed and are often surrounded by smaller peripheral features. Unlike the other counterparts we've already spoken about, these structures in the Purus region are less well known simply because they are more difficult to access. They're hidden under a thicker canopy and have only been revealed through persistent exploration and the help of modern imaging technology. The meticulous workmanship suggests these were not just casual markers. They were purpose-built, likely serving as focal points for community gatherings, defense, or even astronomical observations. Each circle tells a silent story of communal effort and ritual significance, reminding us that even the most remote parts of the Amazon hold clues to a sophisticated pre-Columbian society. Imagine wandering through the jungle and suddenly coming upon a long, straight causeway cutting through the undergrowth, an anomaly in the landscape where nature typically curves and weaves. In several regions of the Amazon, archaeologists have discovered what appear to be ancient road networks, intricately linked with the geoglyphs and earthworks. These causeways are not mere footpaths, but engineered roads that once connected separate ceremonial centers and settlements. Their construction would have required advanced planning and sustained labor, suggesting a level of societal organization that is as impressive as it is unexpected. Some researchers speculate that these roads were used during seasonal gatherings or pilgrimages, creating a physical and perhaps symbolic link between different communities.
Way up in the Andes of Bolivia is Pumapunku, part of the huge Tiwanaku temple complex. Some say it was built around 536 to 600, but some wonder if it's even older than that. It's built with huge blocks that weigh over 130 tons. They've been dragged from 50 miles away to a site so high up there weren't even trees to help roll them. And it's not just the size, it's the precision too. Each stone has lines and cuts that are so sharp and exact, it looks like they were done with electric tools. And the blocks fit together like puzzle pieces with no mortar. Nobody really knows how they moved and carved these stones with the minimal technology that we assume was available back then. The more you look at Pumapunku, the harder it is not to imagine something extraordinary behind it. Out in the deserts of the Middle East and North Africa, there are these formations called desert kites. They're giant shapes made of stone, some over a kilometer long, and from above, they do look like these odd jellyfish-like designs, or kites, hence the name. Nobody really knows for sure why they're there, but most think they were ancient hunting traps. So hunters would basically herd animals like gazelles in and trap them. Some of these date back 10,000 years or more. The size alone is incredible, but the shapes are strange too. They almost look like crop circles or, something like that. Out in the Thar Desert in India, near a village called Boa, satellites spotted these huge geometric patterns carved into the sand, giant spirals, loops, and long straight lines stretching for 30 miles. One spiral alone is over 7 kilometers long. The lines are shallow, only a few inches deep, but they're crazy precise, and they're bigger than the Nazca lines in Peru. But they're only about 150 years old. That's late 1800s, long before anyone could have seen them from above. They're arranged around these old stone memorials called shatris, which honor the dead. Some people think they might have had a spiritual meaning of some kind, but nobody really knows who made them. There are no legends, there are no notes, there are no tools left behind, just these enormous, perfect shapes. In southern Mexico, hidden under thick jungle, archaeologists found one of the oldest and biggest Mayan ceremonial sites ever discovered, Aguada Phoenix. It's a massive raised platform, sitting 33 to 49 feet or 10 to 15 meters above the land around it. People only noticed it recently thanks to lidar. It goes back to around 1000 to 800 BCE, which makes it way older than most of the famous Maya cities that we know of. The platform is surrounded by 9 long causeways. Researchers think it was a huge gathering place for ceremonies or community events, but the precision is insane. Everything lines up perfectly, and it's kind of crazy to think that people built something this big without modern tools. Even crazier, locals have lived around the area for generations, and they never realized something this big was right there under their feet. Out in southern Ohio, there's this huge earthwork called Serpent Mound. It's shaped like a winding snake, over 1,300 feet long, with a coiled tail and a head that points toward a cliff. People built it a long time ago, around 300 BCE, but other cultures came in later and they added to it around 1070. What's really crazy is how it lines up with the sky. The head of the serpent points toward the summer solstice sunset. Nobody really knows why it was built. Maybe it was a calendar, maybe something more spiritual, maybe both. It sits on a meteorite impact crater though, which some people also think might have inspired the whole thing. Near the Pyramid of Djoser in Saqqara, Egypt, archaeologists discovered 24 massive black boxes carved from solid Aswan granite. Each one weighs over 100 tons, with lids around 30 tons, and they're sealed tight, like these massive airtight containers. The precision in cutting and fitting these stones is very impressive. It's so exact it looks like something that you would need modern machinery to pull off. Nobody really knows why there are 24 of them, what they were for. The craftsmanship makes you stop though and wonder how ancient Egyptians managed this with just the tools that they had. And some people, when they look at these boxes, they can't help but think maybe there was more to the story. Way up on a mountain in southeast Turkey, there's this insane tomb built by a king around 69 to 34 BCE. It's called Nemrut Dag. It's basically a giant stone show-off for himself. On top of the peak, he had a huge 50-meter or 164-foot mound made of crushed stone and rubble, surrounded by terraces on 3 sides. Giant limestone statues of gods sit on the east and west terraces, some paired with lions and eagles. There are also rows of stone slabs showing his family tree. One side, Persian ancestors, the other, Macedonian, basically proving he was connected to both east and west. The statues are massive. They're also very detailed. The whole place mixes Greek, Persian, and local styles, and the way it all comes together, the massive stones, the huge statues, just look at it. It feels very otherworldly. Looks like something out of Middle Earth. But just imagining hauling all of that up a mountain without modern machinery, it makes it all the more impressive. Out in the deserts of Jordan, there are these massive stone circles that archaeologists have been studying for decades. They're called the Big Circles, and from the air, they look almost impossibly perfect. 11 of them have been spotted, each around 400 meters across. That's over a quarter mile. There's another one in Syria, though some of those circles have been destroyed over the years. The walls are surprisingly low, just a few feet high, and originally they had no entrances, so that meant anyone who wanted in would have to hop over. Now, why they're shaped like this, what they were actually for, no one really knows. Some people think rituals, some think they were made to track the seasons, but there's nothing really concrete. They've been known about since the 1920s when pilots started spotting them from the air, but it wasn't until recently that archaeologists started taking high-res aerial photos to get a better look. These images show that the circles aren't just randomly placed. They interact with the landscape in strange ways. One in Syria, for example, gives someone standing inside a full panoramic view of a whole basin that would have had crops and settlements. These circles could be over 2,000 years old, or way older, even pre-writing. Out in West Dunbartonshire, Scotland, there's a massive stone called the Cockno Stone, stretching 42 by 26 feet, completely covered in these strange carvings. There are spirals, you have geometric shapes, and over 90 cup and ring marks that cover the surface. And some of these symbols are really odd, like pairs of footprints, each with only 4 toes. Why? Why 4 toes? Was it symbolic? Was it something else entirely? The stone dates back around 5,000 years, making it one of Europe's best examples of Bronze Age rock art. It was discovered in 1887 by Reverend James Harvey. By the 60s, vandalism forced authorities to bury it in 64 to protect it, and it stayed hidden for years. But about 8 years back, it started getting unearthed again, along with all the mystery surrounding it. Some wonder if the carvings could be more than just prehistoric art. Could they be signs of otherworldly visitors, or maybe a secret language lost to time? Who knows? Out on Syria's Golan Heights, there's this massive ancient stone site called Rujum El Hari. From above, it looks like a giant wheel, circular wall spinning around a mound at its center, which is why it's sometimes called the Wheel of Ghosts or the Wheel of Giants. It's also often referred to as the Stonehenge of the East. Nobody knows who built it or why, but it goes back to somewhere between 4000 and 3000 BCE. For a long time, people thought it was built to track the stars or the sun, because the walls seemed to line up with the solstices, but a 2024 study revealed that the ground has shifted over, thousands of years, so those alignments might just be a coincidence. The same research also showed new walls and tiny fences nearby, arranged in flower-like shapes. Some are as old as the original mound, others were added later, showing the site got reused over time. So what was this place actually for? No one really knows. It could have been a home, a storage area, a place for rituals, maybe all of the above, maybe none of those things. The walls of Sacsayhuaman. I was saying that, Sacsayhuaman. They're a very impressive feat of ancient engineering found just outside Cusco, Peru, built by the Inca in the 15th century. It's a massive fortress famous for its enormous stone walls made from giant blocks, some weighing up to 200 tons. And aside from how heavy they are, the stones fit together so nicely and tightly that you can't even slide a toothpick between them. Sacsayhuaman indeed. This site would have been used as a fortification and for ceremonial practices. The walls are arranged in a zigzag pattern, which makes the place effective for defense. But how did the Incas manage to transport and shape these massive stones without modern tools? Well, there are theories. They could have used wooden sledges or ramps, but no one really knows for sure. When the Spaniards arrived and took over Cusco, they were so amazed by the walls that they believed only demons could have built such an incredible structure. They even tried to tear down parts of it, but the boulders were just too heavy for them to move. The stone spheres of Costa Rica, also known as the Diquis spheres. These perfectly round stone spheres range in size from just a few inches to over 8 feet in diameter, with some weighing as much as 16 tons. They're found mainly in the Diquis Delta and the nearby Isla del Cano. Most of these spheres are made of a hard type of granite called granodiorite, and they're believed to have been created by the now extinct Diquis culture between 500 CE and 1500 CE. How did they carve such perfectly round, smooth stones? We don't know for sure. Some researchers think they might have used tools made from harder materials or just had techniques that we can't fully understand today. There are also myths and legends that the Diquis people had a potion that they used to soften the rocks and sculpt them. All we know for sure is that the precision and craftsmanship here is very impressive. What about what they were used for? The main theory is that they were used to mark the burial sites of important people. There's always the possibility, though, that they built them just because. I mean, why not? They look nice. Unfortunately, a lot of these spheres have been moved or destroyed over the years. Only about 30 are still in their original locations. The Plain of Jars is one of the most fascinating and mysterious archaeological sites in Laos. The site is full of large stone jars scattered all over the landscape. Some of the jars are massive, weighing up to several tons. Some are much smaller. There are over 2,000 of these jars across the region, with the largest concentration found at a site called Site 1. And you guessed it, no one really knows who made these jars or why they were created. But archaeologists think the jars date back around 500 BCE to 500 CE. The jars were often carved from sandstone or limestone and are mostly cylindrical. Some theories suggest they were used for burial practices, possibly to hold the remains of the dead, but legend has it they were created by giants. In Bata Valley, Indonesia, you'll find some incredible stone monuments. These statues look a bit like the moai from Easter Island. You'd think that with such striking designs, historians would easily know when and why these megaliths were created, but again, no one really knows how old they are or what they were built for. When locals are asked about the purpose of these statues, they often just say, well, they've always been there. Some believe the megaliths are linked to human sacrifice. Others think they were to ward off evil spirits. Some tales even say these stones are criminals turned to stone and that they can move on their own at night. Another cool thing, the megaliths weren't made from stone found in the local area. The Olmec colossal heads. These are some of the most beautiful artifacts from the ancient world and some of the most intriguing. They were crafted by the Olmec civilization, which lived on the Gulf of Mexico between 1200 BCE and 400 BCE. The heads seem to represent important Olmec rulers, given how difficult it would have been to construct them, and the fact that each and every one of them are unique. So far, 17 of these heads have been found, with 10 from San Lorenzo and 4 from La Venta, both major Olmec sites. Each head is carved from a single basalt boulder, and some of these massive stones were transported over 62 miles to where they stand today. They're actually older than the more famous moai of Rapa Nui. You can tell by looking at them that they're incredibly heavy, 6 tons at the smallest to over 50 tons for the largest, which was never completed. We still don't know exactly how the Olmec moved these gigantic boulders. In fact, we don't really know a whole lot about the Olmecs at all. These heads are some of the few clues we have about their civilization, which mysteriously vanished over 2,000 years ago. Pumapunku in the Andes Mountains of Bolivia is part of a larger temple complex linked to the Tiwanaku culture. It's thought to have been built between 536 and 600 CE, but some researchers think it could be even older than that. The site has these impressive stone blocks, with the largest weighing around 131 tons, way heavier than most modern construction equipment, and they were sourced about 50 miles away. Moving these enormous stones to such a high altitude site would have been no small feat. The area is above the tree line, which means they couldn't use wooden rollers. So how did the builders actually manage to transport these massive blocks? And it's not just how heavy they are, it's the intricate carvings on them. There are these precise etchings cut into the stone, perfectly straight lines. Did they have some kind of advanced tools we just don't know about? Without knowing it, I'd think these were carved with modern day electric tools, but of course that wouldn't have been the case in the year 600. In Saqqara, near the pyramid of Djoser in Egypt, archaeologists discovered 24 coffin-shaped black boxes. These boxes are made of solid Aswan granite, a material so tough that it's hard to scratch even with modern tools. Each box is massive, weighing over 100 tons, and they're designed to be airtight. The lids of these boxes are also made from granite and weigh about 30 tons each. The precision with which these boxes were cut and assembled is just astonishing. Some think that the sheer level of skill shown in these boxes is just so high that it seems almost impossible for ancient people to have achieved it. Of course they did though, which just goes to show how truly impressive the ancient Egyptians were, unless of course you're in the alien camp and think that aliens just helped them out or that the Egyptians copied some advanced design of theirs. As for now though, nobody knows exactly why there are 24 boxes or what their original purpose was. Nan Madol is an incredible ancient city located on the coast of Pohnpei in Micronesia. The site has about 100 artificial islets spread over 150 acres of lagoon. It's estimated that it could have housed more than 1,000 people. Built between 1100 and 1628 CE, Nan Madol was likely a ceremonial and political center. What makes Nan Madol fascinating is how it was built. The structures are made from massive basalt columns, and there was no mortar. The builders just constructed and placed the stones perfectly. It's incredibly impressive, but how did they do it? Well, legend has it that giant birds lifted and placed these heavy stones. The layout of Nan Madol is complex as well, with interconnected islets and waterways. This was a highly organized society. The people who lived here had very advanced skills. Asuka is a village in Japan that dates back to the Kofun period, around 250 to 552 CE. The area is rich in history, and the massive stone structures definitely add to the allure. There are about 20 famous stone monuments here, and to this day, some of them are still super mysterious. No one knows exactly who built them or why. This is definitely the case with Masuda no Anofune, or the rock ship of Masuda. This massive stone structure measures 36 feet long, about 26 feet wide and is about 16.5 feet tall, weighing around 800 tons. It sits at the top of a hill, and looking at it, it doesn't resemble anything else in the area. A lot of the other monuments look more like Buddhist pieces, but this does not look like your typical Buddhist architecture at all. In fact, I don't really know what style of architecture it resembles. It looks almost alien. At the very least, it looks like something you'd see in a modern art museum. There are some theories about its purpose, but none have been proven. Some think it could have been a ceremonial site, others think it might have had some astronomical significance, which seems to be the go-to explanation when experts just have no idea what the hell something is. It's something to do with the stars. The Longyu Caves are a group of 24 man-made caves in China. The caves were carved out of sandstone, and as for who built them and why, no one knows. They were mentioned in a 17th century poem, but no one really knows exactly when they were created. Some clay pots found in the silt inside the caves have been dated back between 206 BCE and 23 CE though. Another cool thing about these caves is that they were found by accident. In June of 1992, 4 farmers drained some ponds in their village, and there they were. What they thought were just ponds turned out to be huge man-made caverns. After doing some digging, they discovered 19 more caverns nearby, too. The caves could be over 2,000 years old, but there are no historical records detailing how or why they were built. But how would they have been constructed, though? Well, with the types of tools available at the time, it would have required around 1,000 skilled workers digging 24 hours a day for many years to complete a project like this. Another odd part, there's no evidence of where all the rubble went. It's estimated that over 1 million cubic meters of stone were removed, but not a single trace of it has ever been found.
Next, we are talking about the Nika Crystal Cave. Deep in the sweltering underground of Chihuahua, Mexico, lies the Nika Crystal Cave, a place so otherworldly it feels like stepping into a parallel universe. Discovered by miners in 2000, this cavern is home to the largest natural crystals ever found, some towering over 30 feet and weighing as much as 55 tons. These translucent giants, formed over hundreds of thousands of years, glisten like frozen beams of light, creating an alien-like landscape that seems almost too surreal to be real. But this breathtaking beauty comes at a price. The cave's extreme conditions, temperatures reaching 136 degrees Fahrenheit and nearly 100% humidity, make it impossible for humans to survive inside for more than a few minutes without specialized suits. Deemed too dangerous to explore further, the cave was abandoned, leaving much of its secrets untouched. Some believe these crystals hold untapped energy or clues to the Earth's geological past. Others say the cavern's unearthly nature hints at something even more mysterious. For now, the Nika Crystal Cave remains sealed off. Next, we are talking about the salt mines of Yekaterinburg. Beneath the industrial city of Yekaterinburg, Russia, lies an abandoned salt mine unlike anything you've ever seen. The walls of this underground labyrinth are streaked with vibrant, multicolored swirls, creating patterns so hypnotic they look like an artist's fever dream. These surreal formations are natural, caused by layers of mineral deposits over millions of years, but the effect is so otherworldly it's hard to believe humans didn't have a hand in it. While the mines are hauntingly beautiful, they are also full of mystery. Locals whisper that during the Soviet era, these caverns may have been repurposed for secret experiments or as hidden bunkers for classified operations. Access to much of the mine is restricted, fueling rumors of forgotten chambers hiding evidence of Soviet ingenuity, or perhaps some darker truths. The unearthly beauty of these salt mines stands in stark contrast to the eerie silence of the abandoned tunnels, leaving visitors with one question: what else might be buried in the shadows of this psychedelic underground world? Next, we are talking about the temples of Ellora. Hidden beneath the surface of Ellora in India lies a wonder that defies logic, an entire complex of subterranean temples carved directly into solid rock. The sheer scale of these structures is overwhelming. Massive halls, intricate sculptures, and towering pillars, all painstakingly chiseled with a precision that modern engineers can't replicate. What's even more astounding is that these temples, built over 1,500 years ago, were created without the aid of advanced advanced tools. To carve just one of these temples, thousands of tons of rock had to be removed, but historians have no clear answers as to how this was achieved or why such monumental effort was dedicated to building underground. Among the 34 temples in the complex, the Kailasa Temple stands out, a single monolithic structure carved from the top down with details so fine they seem impossible for the tools of the time. But the biggest mystery of all? Why were these incredible creations eventually abandoned? Was it a shift in religion, a forgotten disaster, or something even more mysterious? The temples of Ellora remain one of the greatest architectural puzzles in human history, leaving behind questions that may never be answered. In our number 2 spot today, we are talking about the Kaymakli Underground City. Beneath the dusty hills of Turkey lies the Kaymakli Underground City, a sprawling labyrinth of tunnels and chambers carved directly into the earth. While it's often overshadowed by its more famous neighbor, Derinkuyu, Kaymakli is just as massive and no less mysterious. Built to shelter thousands of people during times of invasion, the city is a marvel of ancient engineering, complete with ventilation shafts, storage rooms, and areas designed to house livestock. But its story takes a darker turn. When archaeologists explored its depths, they discovered locked rooms containing human remains, suggesting some of its inhabitants were trapped and left to die. The eerie layout of the city adds to the unsettling vibe: hidden passages, stone doors that could seal off entire sections, and dead ends designed to confuse anyone who dared enter uninvited. How did such a sophisticated structure, capable of sustaining life underground for months, become forgotten for centuries? And what really happened to the people who never made it out? And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Burlington Bunker. Hidden beneath the rolling countryside of Wiltshire, England, lies the Burlington Bunker, a Cold War-era underground city built in total secrecy. Designed to house the British government in the event of nuclear war, this sprawling complex is nothing short of a subterranean marvel. It's said to include 60 miles of tunnels, complete with living quarters, offices, and a fully stocked medical center, and even its own BBC studio to broadcast emergency updates. Yet, despite its purpose as a haven for continuity of government, Burlington was abandoned and sealed off for decades, leaving behind a maze of eerie, dust-covered corridors and silent rooms frozen in time. The true purpose of the bunker remains a topic of debate. Why build a facility of such massive scale only to abandon it? Some theorize it may have been more than just a fallout shelter, possibly housing classified operations or secret experiments hidden from the public eye, with access restricted and much of its history shrouded in mystery. Burlington Bunker stands as a chilling reminder of a time when the threat of annihilation loomed large, and the secrets that might still lie buried within its depths. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Hattusa's hidden tunnels. Deep beneath the ancient ruins of Hattusa, the once great capital of the Hittite Empire, lies a maze of tunnels that archaeologists still can't explain. These winding underground passageways, carved with eerie precision, stretch far beyond what anyone would expect from a city built over 3,000 years ago. The tunnel's purpose is a mystery. Were they designed for secret rituals, a desperate last line of defense, or something even more sinister? What's more baffling is the advanced craftsmanship. Smooth walls and perfectly angled turns achieved with tools that shouldn't have existed at the time. Some chambers end abruptly as if they were abandoned mid-construction, while others seem to lead nowhere, like they were deliberately designed to confuse intruders, or perhaps even those who lived there. The lack of any clear explanation has sparked wild theories, from hidden treasure vaults to portals for communicating with the gods. Whatever their purpose, one thing is certain: the deeper you go into Hattusa's labyrinth, the more unsettling it becomes. Why would an empire invest so much effort into constructing tunnels that no one was meant to find? Next, we are talking about the KGB bunkers. Beneath the bustling streets of Moscow lies a shadowy network of abandoned Soviet-era bunkers that could rival the plots of any Cold War spy thriller. Built in total secrecy during the height of Soviet paranoia, these underground megastructures were designed to shield government elites and military commanders from nuclear annihilation, or so the official story goes. But as researchers delve deeper, the unsettling rumors surrounding these bunkers refuse to be silenced. Some say they were more than just shelters, suggesting the KGB used them as laboratories for classified experiments, interrogation chambers, or vaults for storing state secrets too dangerous to see the light of day. Their sheer size is staggering, with rumors of tunnels large enough to house trains and entire command centers buried so deep they remain untouched to this day. What's truly chilling, though, is what is left behind when the bunkers were abandoned. Cryptic maps, locked steel doors that have never been opened, and strange equipment no one can identify. Did the Soviets bury secrets so dark that even history itself couldn't unearth them? Or are these bunkers still guarding something the world is not ready to find? In our number 8 spot today, we have the Damanhur Temples. Beneath the quiet foothills of northern Italy lies one of the world's most extraordinary secrets, the Damanhur Temples. These vast underground halls, often called the eighth wonder of the world, weren't unearthed by archaeologists. They were built in complete secrecy by a group of modern mystics. Using nothing but hand tools, they carved out sprawling cathedrals filled with breathtaking murals, intricate mosaics, and towering columns, all hidden from the outside world for decades. What makes this story even stranger is their claim that the temples were inspired by ancient knowledge, possibly tapping into long-lost wisdom or even energy fields connected to the earth itself. The details are staggering. One chamber is dedicated to the sun, another to water, with each space aligning perfectly to celestial patterns. And yet, these masterworks were never intended to be found. When authorities finally uncovered the temples, the sheer scope and artistry of the project left them completely stunned, and with far more questions than answers. How did a small community manage to pull off such an architectural feat? And more intriguingly, what ancient inspiration were they channeling to create this hidden masterpiece? Beneath the quiet streets of Taust, a small Spanish town that seems frozen in time, lies a chilling secret that has haunted locals for generations. During a routine construction project, workers unearthed crypts containing mass graves, their origins shrouded in mystery. The skeletal remains, hundreds of them, were eerily arranged, some showing signs of rituals or ancient rites. Abandoned for centuries, these crypts are said to be linked to deadly plagues that swept through the region, wiping out entire communities. Whispers of curses have kept locals far from the site, believing the crypts are a resting place for tormented souls who bring misfortune to those who disturb them. Archaeologists who dared to explore the chambers found more than bones. They uncovered bizarre artifacts and markings that don't match any known historical records. Some even claim the crypts exude an unexplainable chill, as if the air itself carries the weight of centuries-old sorrow. What really happened here, and why does this cursed underground realm seem determined to hold on to its dark secrets? Next, we are talking about the tunnels of Taos. Beneath the dense Amazonian jungles of Ecuador lies the Taos Tunnels, a sprawling underground labyrinth that stretches for hundreds of miles, and possibly even deeper. These tunnels aren't natural formations, they were carved with such precision that some experts argue they couldn't have been made with the tools of ancient humans. The mystery of Taos has lured adventurers for decades, including Neil Armstrong, who joined an expedition to explore its depths in 1976. Stories from the caves are the stuff of legend. Golden artifacts allegedly discovered there, depicting strange symbols and figures, hinting at a civilization far older and far more advanced than history admits. But that's not all. Locals tell tales of bizarre occurrences near the caves, like mysterious lights and sudden unexplained disappearances. Could these tunnels be the remnants of a pre-human civilization that vanished without a trace? Or are they evidence of something even more unearthly? Despite years of exploration, large portions of the tunnels remain uncharted, leaving us with more questions than answers. answers and a haunting sense of what might still be hidden in their endless darkness. Could you imagine a home where half of it dangles freely in midair? Set by a serene lakeside in Suffolk, United Kingdom, the Balancing Barn is a marvel by MVRDV, the Landscape Partnership. This 30-meter-long two-person home features a daring 15-meter cantilever, meaning half of the structure boldly overhangs without support from below. With a reflective metal exterior and interiors that exude both comfort and elegance, the barn includes a kitchen, spacious dining area, and 4 well-appointed bedrooms with attached washrooms. Its ingenious design hinges on a central concrete core where the grounded section is made from heavier materials, ensuring that the free-hanging half remains stable against gravity, a true testament to balanced engineering. Could a slender, winding filament be the hidden backbone of our entire galaxy? Hidden in the dust and darkness of the Milky Way is Nessie, an extraordinary infrared dark cloud that stretches for hundreds of light years. Nicknamed the bone of our galaxy, Nessie is a dense, elongated structure composed of cold molecular gas and dust. Despite its slim, noodle-like appearance, its sheer length and coherence challenge our understanding of how such structures can persist in a turbulent interstellar medium. Discovered using infrared observations, Nessie plays a crucial role in outlining the Milky Way's spiral arms. Its discovery has not only shed light on the intricate skeleton supporting our galaxy, but has also sparked debates about the formation of giant molecular filaments. Nessie's existence reveals that even in our chaotic realm of star formation, nature can carve out remarkably ordered and immense structures that seem to defy the odds. Can a building truly merge urban living with the breath of nature? In Chippendale, Australia, Atelier Jean Nouvel created One Central Park, a twin-tower mixed-use development that epitomizes biophilic design. The building's facade is not just glass and steel, it is alive with nature, incorporating 250 species of native Australian flora that climb alongside the towers. Crowning the structure is a gravity-defying cantilever that spans 148 feet and weighs 120 tons, built with a steel truss system that features a reflective heliostat with 320 motorized mirrors. This innovative design creates an integrated experience where nature and urban life coalesce, offering residents and visitors an unparalleled encounter with both cutting-edge architecture and the natural world. What if you could witness a galaxy whose radio jets stretch across millions of light years? Meet 3C236, one of the universe's true leviathans when it comes to radio emissions. This giant radio galaxy boasts jets that span an astonishing 15 million light years, making it one of the largest known single objects in the cosmos. What's remarkable about 3C236 is not just its size, but the persistence of its radio lobes, which continue to emit energetic particles across intergalactic space. These colossal jets are powered by a supermassive black hole at the galaxy's core, and they serve as natural particle accelerators, propelling charged particles at nearly the speed of light. The stability and longevity of these radio structures challenge our understanding of magnetic fields and energy dissipation over such immense distances. For astronomers, 3C236 is a spectacular laboratory for studying the extremes of physics, offering clues about how black holes can influence their surroundings on scales that seem almost impossible. Could the violent dance of colliding galaxies create structures that seem to defy gravity? When galaxies collide, the cosmic fireworks can produce some of the most stunning and puzzling structures in the universe. The antennae galaxies, NGC 4038 and NGC 4039, are a prime example of this breathtaking chaos. As these two spirals interact, their gravitational forces fling streams of stars and gas into space, creating long, arching tidal tails that stretch tens of thousands of light years. These tidal tails are not only visually arresting, they also challenge our models of how galaxies evolve and recycle material. In the midst of this cosmic collision, intense bursts of star formation ignite, giving birth to superstar clusters that shine like beacons amid the chaos. The antennae galaxies remind us that even violent interactions can sculpt structures of staggering scale and complexity, a true tidal tapestry that continues to fascinate astronomers and stargazers. Have you ever wondered if the universe could be even bigger than we imagine? Deep in the cosmos lies the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall, a structure so vast it challenges everything we thought we knew about the universe. Discovered by analyzing the distribution of gamma-ray bursts, this megastructure spans an estimated 10 billion light-years, making it the largest known structure in the observable universe. Its sheer size seems to defy the cosmological principle, the idea that the universe is homogeneous and isotropic on large scales. Scientists are still debating whether its existence implies a need to tweak our models of cosmic evolution. Despite the debates, what's clear is that the Great Wall is not just a random collection of galaxies, it is a massive supercluster complex that has astronomers rethinking the limits of gravitational organization. Imagine a cosmic network so vast that our very understanding of space is pushed to the edge. Have you ever seen a structure that seems to defy gravity with barely any ground contact? Located outside the Hirshhorn Museum in Washington, D.C., the Needle Tower is a 60-foot public artwork by Kenneth Snelson that literally hovers on just 14 inches of support. Built in the 1960s from aluminum and stainless steel, its design is a brilliant example of tensegrity, a concept pioneered by Buckminster Fuller. Two types of steel wire triangles form a lattice, distributing tension and compression to create a stable, yet seemingly weightless structure. Its minimalist footprint and daring design continue to fascinate engineers and art lovers. Ever feel like an unseen force is pulling everything around you? Out in intergalactic space, there's a gravitational mystery known as the Great Attractor. This colossal anomaly isn't something you can simply spot with an optical telescope, it's shrouded behind the thick dust and gas of the Milky Way's zone of avoidance. Yet, its gravitational pull is undeniable. Entire galaxy clusters, including our own local group, are being drawn toward it. Located roughly 150 to 250 million light-years away in the direction of the Centaurus and Hydra constellations, the Great Attractor's mass seems to defy expectations. How can such a massive unseen force exist without an obvious source? Some researchers propose that dark matter might be playing a significant role here, hinting at a new physics beyond our current models. The Great Attractor remains one of the universe's best-kept secrets, a hidden gravitational engine that reshapes the cosmic landscape. Imagine living in a tilted cube that transforms a city into an abstract forest. Does that spark your curiosity a little bit? Designed by Piet Blom and built in 1984 in Rotterdam, Netherlands, the cube houses challenge traditional housing concepts. These residential cubes are tilted inward by almost 45 degrees, resembling a forest of abstract forms, where each tree is a home. Each cube is divided into 3 living levels, a ground floor living space, mid-level bedrooms, and a sun lounge at the top, while the structure is supported by a timber frame skeleton and hexagonal pylons made of joined concrete pillars and cellular brick walls. This innovative design not only maximizes urban space, but also adds a playful, almost surreal twist to everyday living. What if there was a region in space so empty it seems to be a cosmic desert? Venture into the Boots Void, often dubbed the Great Nothing, and you'll encounter one of the universe's most baffling phenomena. This immense, nearly spherical region spans roughly 330 million light-years and contains far fewer galaxies than expected. Its vast emptiness is astonishing, almost as if a cosmic eraser swept through and wiped out the matter that should have clumped together here. The existence of such a large void raises intriguing questions. How does matter distribute itself in the universe, and what processes can lead to such a dramatic absence of stars and galaxies? voids. While voids are a natural outcome of the gravitational tug of war and the cosmic web, the Boots void is so extreme that it makes astronomers wonder if there are unknown forces at play.
The Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus was meant to be the grandest temple in all of Rome, dedicated to the king of the gods. It was supposed to outshine all other temples in the ancient world, but the final version of the temple was never fully realized. It started construction in the 6th century BCE, but after a series of political issues and with the growing instability in Rome, the project just didn't go as planned. The temple went through a number of phases, and only parts of it were ever finished. The temple was looted, burned, and rebuilt tons of times over the centuries, with different emperors taking on the project but never fully completing its original design. By the time it was finally abandoned, it wasn't even close to what it had been meant to be. It's this unfinished dream of Roman grandeur that never really saw its full potential, and is now just another reminder of how politics, power struggles, and time itself can shape the legacy of a civilization. The Tower of Babel is a story a lot of people know from the Bible. It was this giant tower built to reach the heavens, but according to the story, God wasn't too happy about human ambition, and it scattered the people, confusing their language and causing the project to fall apart. It's a cautionary tale about becoming too prideful, that no matter how intelligent and ambitious you are, you're still human, no match for the guy upstairs. And it attempts to explain why people around the globe speak different languages, of course. But regardless of how you feel about the moral of the story and the religious side of it, could there be a historical event that it's pulling from? Did the Babylonians try to build something massive, something that would rival anything that had come before it? Well, some historians think the Tower of Babel was inspired by the ziggurats in Mesopotamia, like the one we talked about before, which were big step pyramids used for religious ceremonies. But the tower was never finished. Whether it was because of the political collapse of the Babylonian Empire or the project was just overly ambitious to begin with, we'll never know. Hadrian's Wall is another unfinished project that spans 73 miles across northern Britain, built by the Romans to protect the empire from the Picts, who were the ancient people of what is now Scotland. The wall wasn't completed all at once, and in some areas it's pretty clear the Romans just didn't finish what they started. They clearly hit some serious roadblocks, mainly politics and war. Scotland was just that last place they could never break into. Plus, the huge challenge of constructing something so massive across very uneven terrain, it was just too tough. Some parts were thrown together quickly, other sections were just left unfinished. Even now, the wall is a bit of a mix of finished and unfinished bits. It's a reminder that even the most impressive military projects don't always turn out the way they're planned. The Romans were incredible engineers, but even they couldn't pull off Hadrian's Wall the way they'd imagined. The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem is one of the most famous religious structures in the world, but the build didn't go as smoothly as many think. At first, the design was actually way bigger and more elaborate, but with all the political chaos and changes in leadership during the 7th century, parts of the dome had to be scaled back. The original idea, with all its detailed mosaics and huge dome, had to be adjusted, and even after it was finished, there were always parts being restored or rebuilt. The unfinished parts of the Dome of the Rock don't just show how tough the construction was, they also reflect the political and religious changes going on in Jerusalem at the time, and that actually makes it pretty interesting. Angkor Wat is the largest religious monument in the world, and it still wasn't finished. The temple complex was first built in the early 12th century by the Khmer king Suryavarman II. It was supposed to be a grand tribute to the Hindu god Vishnu, and the plans were massive, multi-level galleries, detailed carvings everywhere, towering buildings. But as big as the plans were, the temple itself was never really finished. The Khmer Empire was on the decline during its construction, and internal power struggles along with the constant threat of invasion slowed down the work. The temple went through all these phases of construction, but a lot of the intricate work just stopped, likely because the resources had dried up and the empire just weren't able to support such an ambitious project. By the time the empire fell in the 15th century, the temple was still incomplete, but who cares? I mean, whatever, it's an incredible sight today, especially now with all the vines and stuff growing over parts of it. Seeing this place in person would be absolutely breathtaking. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus was an ancient Greek temple in what is now Turkey, supposed to be one of the grandest temples ever built. It was designed to be massive, imagine 127 columns, each one over 60 feet tall, and a marble structure so impressive that it was listed as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. But as grand as this place was, the temple was never fully completed. It was burned down in 356 BCE by a man named Herostratus, who was trying to gain fame by burning it down. After the fire, they tried to rebuild it, but it just kept running into problems. The area was constantly under threat of invaders, and political instability kept interfering with the reconstruction. Over the centuries, it went through a bunch of different rebuilds, but no one ever had the chance to finish the full thing. And finally, the Goths, a group of Germanic tribes that played a huge part in the fall of the Western Roman Empire, attacked and destroyed what remained of it in 262 CE. And that was pretty much the end of the temple. Today, all we've got are foundations and little fragments of the last temple, a reminder of something that could have been much more. When the Colossus of Rhodes was built, it was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, towering over 100 feet tall. It was an incredible feat of engineering and a symbol of Rhodes' power. The statue, designed to honor the sun god Helios, took 12 years to build, but it didn't even last 56 years. A massive earthquake hit it in 226 BCE, toppling the statue into pieces. And then it was just never rebuilt. You'd think the Rhodians would rush to put it back up, but they didn't. Some say it was just too expensive, others think the statue's size just made it too hard to rebuild. It makes sense. They just spent over a decade building the thing for it to collapse just a little over 50 years later. They were probably just like, forget it, there's other things we gotta focus our energy on. And unfortunately, unlike a lot of the other places you'll see on this list, there's nothing left of this statue today. The remaining parts were sold off as scrap way back in the day, so all we have are stories and a few ancient sketches. And based on those, it does look like the thing was pretty awe-inspiring. We all know the Great Wall of China as one of the world's most iconic ancient structures, and as amazing as it was originally going to be even more grand. Not all of it is finished. Sure, we've got the grand sections that have been restored and preserved, but there are a lot of long stretches of the wall that were never fully completed. The wall wasn't all built at once, and some parts of it were built hastily. Different dynasties worked on it over the centuries, but the work was always interrupted by rebellions and logistical problems. Some sections were abandoned halfway through because the resources just weren't there anymore, or there was simply no need to continue. And in some cases, entire stretches of the wall were neglected and left to fall apart. The most famous parts of the wall were heavily restored during the Ming Dynasty, but if you travel further out, you'll find these abandoned, incomplete sections with crumbling stones and wildlife growing around them. Not what you'd typically picture when you think of the Great Wall of China. The Ziggurat of Ur, built around 2100 BCE, was an enormous stepped pyramid meant to honor the moon god Mana. It was a massive undertaking for the Sumerians, and it was supposed to make it one of the greatest structures of the ancient world, but like many ancient projects, the full vision never came to fruition. The Sumerians were very advanced when it came to a lot of things, but with all the invasions and internal conflict, their civilization eventually just collapsed. So by the time the ziggurat was nearly complete, things had gotten bad enough that the resources to finish the structure just weren't there anymore and had to be diverted elsewhere. And as the empire continued to fall apart, the ziggurat sat incomplete and much of the surrounding area was abandoned. But fortunately, the remnants of the ziggurat are still standing today. The unfinished obelisk in Aswan is just one giant piece of stone that was meant to be erected as an obelisk. If it had been completed, it would have been the largest obelisk in Egypt, measuring 138 feet and weighing about 1,200 tons. Given ancient Egypt's track record of incredible giant structures, this one would have been pretty awesome. But of course, it was never finished. The ancient Egyptians had started carving it out of the rock, but while it was still in the quarry, the stone cracked. The workers had no choice but to abandon the project. So today, you can still visit this gigantic chunk of stone that was originally going to be standing upright. It's just sitting there, still attached to the bedrock. It's kind of sad, right? The fact that this thing was so close to being finished, but then, whether it was a technical failure or just bad luck, it was left unfinished forever. Nan Madol. This place is incredibly cool because it's an ancient city built on about 100 artificial islands connected by canals off the coast of Pohnpei Island in Micronesia. It's It's sometimes called the Venice of the Pacific. The city was constructed around the 12th century, with islands being made by stacking huge stones to create walls and platforms. Nan Madol had temples, tombs, and living quarters for the rulers and priests of the time. The city was designed to impress and control, with the ruling class living on the islands and the common people living on the mainland. One of the most impressive structures in Nan Madol is Nandawas, a royal mortuary built with walls 25 feet high. The city started to decline around the 16th century, and by the time the Europeans arrived in the 1800s, Nan Madol was abandoned and overgrown. But it looks really pretty now.
1,420 years ago, an unknown ancient civilization managed to do something we couldn't even do today. Sometime between 536 and 600 AD, this mystery civilization managed to create a megastructure made out of magnetic stones that weigh about 131 tons each. For reference, modern-day earth-moving equipment can move between 7 to 120 tons, so 131 is really out of the question. So how the hell did whoever brought the stones of Puma Punku bring them up the Andes Mountains in Bolivia? Well, no one knows. We also have no idea how they managed to carve the stones into such precise shapes. It's an engineering mystery. And not only do we not know how Puma Punku was built, we also have no idea why, although theories suggest that the structures were used as spiritual and ritual centers. And of course there is the theory that the civilization who built Puma Punku were massive, highly intelligent humanoid beings that were often mistaken for aliens but actually originated on Earth before either leaving this planet or going extinct. But that one doesn't really fly in the scientific community. However, it's my personal favorite.
Found near the city of Cajamarca in northern Peru is a very fascinating archaeological site called Cumbe Mayo. It is this intricate system of ancient stone canals, considered one of the world's oldest irrigation systems, dating back over 3,000 years. The canals stretch over 5.5 miles. There was advanced engineering skills at play here for sure. What baffles researchers is the precision of these canals. Considering the challenging terrain of the Andes, the canals were designed with such accuracy that even today they still carry water from the Atlantic side of the Andes to the Pacific. You also have the stone forest, which is quite a sight. These are tall, upright limestone pillars, some reaching up to 60 feet high. There are also petroglyphs and carvings on some of the rocks at Cumbe Mayo depicting animals, geometric shapes, and human figures.
20 famous massive stone sculptures carved into granite located in Japan with no known origin. So how did these monoliths come to be? Out of the 20 large stones, one stands out, Masuda no Inafune, which translates to the rock ship of Medusa. The structure is 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and just below 5 meters high, and it weighs around 800 tons. No one knows why, when, or who built the structures found in the village of Asuka, located in the Takachi district of Japan, and no one knows how they were made either. While some historians have put forth the theory that the stones might have been created by Buddhists in the year 538 due to the close proximity of the monuments to many Buddhist shrines and temples, the fact that the structures do not exhibit any Buddhist markers make the theory highly debated. As for now, the monoliths of Asuka remain pretty much a complete mystery, but I'm starting to think civilizations back in the day were just a hell of a lot stronger than civilizations today, because we couldn't do it.
Marquesi is a little different from everything else on its list in that it's a natural formation. Or is it? High in the Andes Mountains near Lima, Peru is the plateau surrounded by a collection of massive granite rock formations. The location is famous for the mysterious shapes resembling human faces and animals carved into the rocks. The star of the show here is the assortment of large stone structures, some reaching up to 20 feet in height, sculpted apparently by natural weathering, but some of these formations look a lot like anthropomorphic figures, like faces, animals, even depictions of ancient deities. The interpretation of these shapes varies. Some think these were intentionally sculpted by an ancient advanced civilization, others say it's just pareidolia that we're looking at here, but a lot of scientists believe that the anthropomorphic shapes on Marquesi's rocks formed out of erosion processes, with wind and water sculpting the granite over time. But I don't know, looking at some of these formations, they look pretty uncanny to me. It's hard to believe that someone didn't intentionally do this.
proof of aliens in the form of 24 coffin-shaped boxes discovered in a hillside cave in Saqqara located near the Great Pyramid of Giza. The boxes are solid Aswan granite and they have been cut flawlessly, a feat not only impressive in ancient times but equally as impressive today because, simply put, we do not have the technology to make such precision cuts in such a hard piece of stone. Not only that, but each box weighs around 100 tons, and there are 24 of them. As of right now, no one knows why the boxes exist, what's inside of them, or the significance of there being 24 of them. The main theory of the boxes is, of course, that they were created by aliens. And then to go off of that theory, it's believed that the Egyptians built the structure around it where the boxes are now. At this point, I'm honestly tempted to believe this theory. Also, I'm incredibly curious to find out what's inside of these boxes. So if we do, expect a video on that.
Göbekli Tepe is an ancient archaeological site located in southeastern Turkey. It's considered one of the oldest known monumental structures in the entire world, dating back to around 9600 BC, which makes it over 11,000 years old. What's fascinating about Göbekli Tepe is that it was built by hunter-gatherer societies long before the advent of agriculture or settled communities. The site has a bunch of large, circular and oval-shaped enclosures made of massive stone pillars. These pillars, some of which weigh several tons, are intricately carved with animals like lions and bulls, snakes, birds. Archaeologists believe that the place operated as a ceremonial or religious center rather than a place for people to actually live. It's thought that ancient people gathered here for rituals, probably involving feasting, dancing, and honoring their ancestors or gods. The place was deliberately buried around 8000 BC, or at least parts of it anyway, and possibly this was a ritual or to mark the end of its use. This turned out to be perfect though, because the burial ended up preserving this site remarkably well until it was rediscovered in 1994.